Well, I mean, if we do get to make a film, we should invite all the directors of the films we've reviewed.
And give them like little feedback slips.
Yeah. Welcome back to Modern Horror Stories podcast with Alex, Jamie, and Dave. And yesterday we spoke about the 1999 movie Audition. Today we're going to tell you how we would make it even better. As always, kudos to the people who made this film or anyone who's made a movie. We haven't made one yet. Maybe one day we will. But it's very difficult to make a movie. And if you haven't seen Audition, go and watch it now, because we don't want to spoil it, because this will be full of spoilers. So who would like to go first? 3 things to make Audition better.
I think, Jamie, you've got more things on your list than I do.
So I have 3 things on my list. So the first thing I would change is there's a scene where Aoyama's on a mission to find out more about Asami. And he goes to her former place of work and is told that her former employer was murdered. And there's a detail about them finding extra body parts. And he has a vision of this. And there was something about that vision. Like, I like the vision in itself, the idea that he has this sort of mental image of the horror of it. But it felt quite slapstick in a way, the actual visuals of it. It was a tongue like flopping about with some bits of fingers. It felt of a slightly different tone to other things. So I would just slightly tweak the filming of that. That's all. Like, I think keep the vision, but just slightly tweak the filming of it. The next thing is he has another set of visions, like a very extended set of visions, which is brilliant. And we learn quite a bit about the character and the psyche of the character and the past as well. I think that's really beautifully done, but I don't know where it comes from. Like, has he been drugged? Does Asami have supernatural powers? Does he have supernatural powers? Where is this vision coming from? So maybe that's a sort of a Western view, wanting to have a clear linear explanation of where that comes from, and maybe that's not fair to pin that on the film. And on a similar note of perhaps this is just an American movie consumer view, but I would have liked to have known earlier in the film that Aoyama was going to get some kind of comeuppance for the whole audition thing. Even though it was, as we discussed yesterday, there was some ambiguity as to how up for it he was, but he definitely, I mean, he read Asami's profile and was like, yeah, I'm going to pick her. And so, like, I would have liked it to be a bit clearer earlier on that he was going to get, Asami would get revenge on him. But again, I think that's probably from watching American movies. And without that lens, then the only thing I would change was that the flapping tongue.
Yeah, I quite like the flapping tongue, actually. I mean, yeah, I can see what you mean. Definitely, that it looked a bit like a puppet. But no, I wouldn't change that. One of the things that I would do, though, is maybe change that sequence. So instead of her former employer being murdered, I would want Yoshikawa to have some comeuppance. So this is Aoyama's friend. And I thought it might have been interesting if Yoshikawa had gone missing a few days before, and then that sequence with the extra body parts, that was about him instead. So Aoyama is trying to work out what's going on, why Yoshikawa has disappeared. Yeah, that was a little thing, just because the whole former manager being murdered, it just felt like a slight detour, a little too much maybe, from the central characters. And we did, because we focused so much throughout the film on 4 characters, really, it felt a little separate from the rest of the film. So yeah, a big thing for me was comeuppance for Yoshikawa. I could do without it, but it would have been nice as well. It would have just kind of rounded off that character a bit, because I don't remember finding anything out about him at the end. I think he just sort of disappears about halfway through the film. And then the other thing I'd do, and this is a bit harsh, is I'd maybe recast one of the characters. It might be to do with the direction. So I don't want to blame the actor too much. But it was right at the end when the son comes in. I didn't really believe his reaction to seeing his father lying out there with needles in his eyes and in his chest. I found that a bit difficult to believe, but I don't know, again, if that was just needs another take, maybe. So yeah, second take on that scene, I think, would be my other one.
My gut, I agree with you, Alex, about his reaction. And my gut feeling was that was the director's choice.
Maybe it was, yeah.
But as we said yesterday, he makes these films really quickly. I think he spent longer on the last scene than he did on the rest of the movie. But even so, he's got a reputation of only doing, 1 or 2 takes. It'd be interesting to see if there were other takes of that. Maybe on principle, he thought, okay, we've done it twice, I'll just pick the best one.
Mm.
I mean, you're going to get a very spontaneous response. And with more takes, he could have taken the actor to a much more an alternative reaction. But anyway, I take your point. I agree with you about his reaction. I would only make one change, and also I want to pick you up, Alex, on the fact that there's 4 characters in this film. Because for me, there were 5 characters in this film. The 5th character being the dog, which is name-checked quite a few times early in the movie. And as a dog lover, I knew that dog had it coming. I knew they were going to kill the dog. And that made me super uncomfortable. And again, another spoiler, you do see the dead dog, but it's just one quick cutaway, and I was so happy that was the only cutaway we got of the dog. So my change would be, I would beef up the dog's part a little bit. So have the dog as a puppy right at the beginning in that big flashback. Maybe have the dog misbehaving a little bit early on. Take the dog on a kind of hero's journey. So the dog starts off as a kind of bad pup. But then by the end, in that final sequence, rather than the son coming back, I would have the dog.
Brilliant. Yeah, like Lassie.
Like, exactly.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And then we'd probably get a sequel, just with the dog. So, for me, whenever they give a rating to a film, I just want to know if a dog dies. That's the only thing that's gonna spoil the viewing for me.
There was something that you said that I thought was really, really interesting, and it was about the idea that, it takes 3 weeks to shoot. These directors, they have their kind of ways of doing things, and also there are all kinds of logistical issues on set. So we can come up with these like, oh, this is how we make the film better. But obviously we don't have to deal with delays or production companies or studios or all of this kind of logistical difficulty that you might have. So it's possible that they wanted to make all of our changes and just couldn't. It's unlikely, but it's possible. So yes. So I'm really looking forward to us making a film, because these videos are going to be very embarrassing to look back on.
Well, I mean, if we do get to make a film, we should invite all the directors of the films we've reviewed.
And give them like little feedback slips.
To critique us. You should have done this.
Why were there no dead dogs?
Yeah.
So, on that note, if you think we have ruined Audition, let us know in the comments below. Or perhaps you've got ideas that could improve this movie. Again, drop them down below this video. And we hope to see you next week for another Modern Horror Stories podcast.